Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to have you all here. My name is Ilana Szobel, and I'm a professor of modern Hebrew literature, women and gender studies, and disability studies at Brandeis University. And I'm thrilled to open our event, The Deaf Community in Israel, dancer and poet Tami Assouline in conversation with Professor Marco Di Giulio. The event is part of the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies series, Performing Disability in Israel. The series explores real-life experiences and artistic performances of people living with disability in Israel, and it examines the ways performance of disability on stage, on the screen, and in everyday life raises questions about Israeli subjectivity. I'm especially excited about the event today because it is held in conjunction with my course, Disability Culture, Art, Film, and Literature of People with Disabilities. I'm so grateful to my TA, Divon, and the amazing students in this class for being here today and for asking amazing questions at the end. And I'm pleased to welcome all of our virtual guests. I want to thank the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies for making this wonderful event possible. I would like to extend special thank you to Professor Jonathan Sarna, Director of the Schusterman Center, as well as to Dr. Shayna White, Assistant Director of the Schusterman Center. I'm also deeply grateful to other members of the Schusterman team, Risa Singer, Karen Gottwald, Wendy Schwartz, and Menchi Tian for their kindness, help, and cooperation in facilitating this event. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Marco Di Giulio, our speaker today, who is an associate professor of Hebrew language and literature at Franklin and Marshall College. He has written on the vernacularization and standardization of Hebrew, and currently he is completing a fascinating book on the history of disability in Israel, and the students here read one chapters from this book, so thank you for sharing this with us. I'm also delighted to introduce Tami Assouline, our performer today, who is a multidisciplinary deaf creator in movement, dance, and poetry. She is a sign language teacher and the daughter of a deaf family. She has written 3 beautiful books of poetry, which I hope one day will be available in English. The most recent of these books is in deaf syntax, and she's working on a 4th book, and she has also created a short film entitled Inner Flame that deals with dance, and also our students here had the pleasure to watch this film, and hopefully we'll have a chance to ask you a million questions about this movie. And our event will be accompanied by Dana Neria, an Israeli sign language interpreter, who will translate from Israeli sign language into spoken English. We will open the event with Marco's talk and move to Tami's performance. Then Marco will interview Tami, and then we will open the discussion for questions. 2 technical things before I hand over the floor to Marco. First, students in the class will ask their questions orally in person. And our guests who join virtually are invited to send their questions to the chat, and Devon will collect them. And also kindly note that live captioning is available. You can turn it off if you'd like. The option to do so is at the bottom of your screen where it says live transcript. Professor Marco Di Giulio, the floor is all yours.
Thank you to the sponsors who helped this event take flight. I especially thank Professor Ilana Szobel for making the invitation, as well as the staff of the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies at Brandeis University. I'm also very grateful to the members of the Israeli deaf community first and foremost, Tami Assouline, whom I interviewed in past years, for allowing me to share some of their family stories and pictures. I also thank all the people whose work makes our events, learning, and worlds more accessible. A self-description: I'm a white man with buzzed hair. I'm wearing lightweight eyeglasses and a blue jacket. In out of access, a digital copy of my notes for this talk is available. It has been shared via the Q&A box. This might be useful for anyone who benefits from accessing information in different formats at a different pace and place, realizing that environmental barriers also affect our ways of learning. In order to understand the significance of the performance you're about to witness tonight, you need to know something about the history of sign language in Israel and about ableism in the form of oralism. For decades, beginning in the late 19th century, the hearing world sought to turn deaf people into people who could communicate fluently in spoken language, with limited success. Deaf education in Israel, as in other places, was resolutely opposed to the use of signing on the grounds that sign language was inherently inferior to spoken language, and that deaf people could not communicate effectively, could not even think effectively, unless they had mastered spoken Hebrew. This mistaken belief was the keystone of formal deaf education in Israel, which began in 1932 with the establishment of the School for Jewish Deaf Children in Jerusalem. Next slide, please. Within a year, the school could advertise its progress by circulating photographs of the deaf children performing a Purim play, a dramatization based on the biblical book of Esther in Hebrew. This photo shows the entire cast of characters, including the king, his court officials, and a group of young women in the act of dancing. Students at the school were barred from using sign language, but the school itself, by providing a gathering point for a community of deaf children, incubated the development of sign language among its students, whose hands could hardly be tied to keep them from communicating among themselves. Oralism was the teaching approach adopted in the school. This method, which dominated deaf education virtually everywhere, required the deaf students to learn lip reading and speech by practicing breathing exercises and articulation drills, while prohibiting them from using gestural communication. The teachers indeed believed that signing was a primitive and animalistic form of communication that only impaired deaf people's ability to speak and to reason. The acquisition of spoken language, in the teacher's view, was a prerequisite for rational thinking. Signing represented for them a menace to their fragile experiment of lodging Hebrew in the minds of children whose bodies were not made to access speech through hearing. The reputation of the school quickly spread, and visitors came to observe the progress made by this group of students. To some, the children seemed gifted with special attention skills. A curious reporter noted, quote, "The children are grouped around the teacher in a semicircle, and their eyes are fixed in intensive concentration on the teacher's mouth," unquote. Next slide, please. Though we can only speculate, the scene described by this visitor likely mirrored the one captured in this photo. The children appear poised and reflective as they master the articulations of spoken Hebrew by observing their teacher's lip movements. To reinforce this message, their hands are laid on the desk to counter the belief that they were bound to use gestures to express themselves effectively. Indeed, the curious visitor also recognized that, quote, should their attention wander for a moment in order to communicate with each other, they do so soundlessly by means of the lip language they have been taught, unquote. In the eyes of this visitor, as in the photo, the children practiced obedience and self-restraint in order to dominate their instinct to communicate by signing. To all appearances, deaf children could thrive without sign language. Next slide, please. The deaf school in Jerusalem succeeded in delivering a kind of education that had never been attempted before in the country. A second school was established in Tel Aviv in 1941, where the students were trained also in oralism. But due to meager financial support, both schools struggled to have the wide-ranging impact that their founders had envisioned. Simply put, the schools were unable to accommodate all the eligible children who could have succeeded in them, and never contained more than 30 students at any given time. Nevertheless, the significance of the schools can hardly be overstated. They graduated students who could negotiate the Hebrew-speaking landscape of Palestine and later Israel, while creating a social space that allowed them to form a subversive linguistic community of their own. Though prohibited from signing while in the classroom, deaf students unsurprisingly proved disobedient. Outside the oversight of their teachers, they defied the prohibition to sign, thus spontaneously creating a rudimentary form of sign language that replaced the spoken Hebrew that was imposed on them inside the classroom. Contemporary images do not capture these small acts of juvenile rebellion, but show students whose bodies were rendered docile by the teachings of oralism. The memory of these expressions of defiance has only been preserved in the practice of adult deaf storytelling. Next slide, please. This photo was taken a year after a group of 44 deaf adults in Tel Aviv had established the Association for the Deaf Mute, as the Hebrew language inscription in the background indicates. 6 of its founding members are depicted while staging a Purim play. In deaf schools, the reenactment of biblical stories served the purpose of spotlighting the students' Hebrew oral skills before a hearing audience. In the association itself, the reenactments of biblical narratives entertained and educated the deaf audience about its national past. In this venue, deaf actors were no longer required to perform the plays in Hebrew, but could act their parts using sign language. Deaf theater was a way to celebrate and perform deafness as a form of identity. And in this respect, it anticipates what we will see here tonight. The association was more than a communal organization for deaf self-advocacy. It provided a social space where deaf cultural autonomy was asserted and practiced. Meeting centers served as places of entertainment, community identity, pride, and social welfare. Within their bounds, deaf athletics, deaf theater, and deaf clubs were opportunities to affirm deaf self-definition. Culturally, the deaf community of the 1950s and 60s was far from homogeneous. While sharing a common identity defined by the experience of deafness and the use of sign language, its members came from a variety of cultural, social, and linguistic backgrounds, bringing to Israel the sign languages that they used in their countries of origin. Middle Eastern, North African, and European deaf Jews joined the association in search of kinship and belonging. Furthermore, the convergence of signers of different provenances created the conditions for the adoption and circulation of new signs. The formation of a community that communicated by signing lessened the need for deaf people to conquer Hebrew in order to navigate Israeli society. Indeed, orally educated deaf people could facilitate interactions between the signing deaf and the Hebrew-speaking world. Ironically, it was the limited availability of adult deaf education in Israel that did much to protect the deaf community from the process of Hebraization to which hearing immigrants were subjected. The slow acquisition of Hebrew and Israeli culture opened up spaces for the growth of a new sign language and indigenous Israeli deaf culture. Self-isolation and the stigma surrounding sign language did nothing but bolster the awareness that deaf identity was indeed grounded in a common language and experience. Next slide, please. Many articles were published in the Hebrew press of the 1950s, presenting the deaf community as a cultural minority in its own right. When sign language was discussed, it was often described as, quote unquote, obsolete means of communication that the deaf should abandon in exchange for lip reading, a mainstay of oralism. The magazine article that everyone sees on the screen is exceptional. Here, sign language is acknowledged and celebrated. The first half of the headline, the quietest conference ever, is a reference to the silent modes of manual communication used during the fourth conference of the deaf in 1959, reported on by the writer. But the second half, the debate was heated, but no voice was heard in the hall, is a direct challenge to the assumption that sign language was inadequate for articulating complex thought. The article demonstrated that the deaf had the ability to debate, agree, deliberate, and dissent over vital matters of deaf communal life. Vivid snapshots of signing deaf men were included on the magazine page to show up precisely this message. The signer at the bottom emphatically makes a point. Next slide, please. While the second signer in the top photographic sequence is captured in the act of delivering an important speech in sign language before his deaf audience. Sign language may have seemed obsolete to some, but it proved effective to build community and promote action. Outside the bounds of deaf associations, however, oralism prevailed and a strict ban on sign language was maintained in the national education system. By the late 1950s, the existing schools for the deaf were brought under the oversight of the Israeli Department of Education, which educated over 100 deaf students every year, from 1st to 8th grade. Yet, pursuing education beyond middle school was hardly a possibility for deaf students. Without a proper framework to accommodate the needs of older students outside the deaf schools, the Department of Education chose to mainstream them into regular schools. At the fourth convention of the Israeli Associations for the Deaf in 1959, an officer of the Department of Education, Helene Bart, claimed that deaf youths had the ability to, quote, advance in their studies in a normal manner with friends of all senses, unquote. but account by deaf students suggest that the struggle to shift to a speaking learning environment that did not take their needs into account. Mainstreaming was not an effective preparation, quote, for healthy life in the community, unquote, as Barth had claimed. A national change in the attitude towards sign language occurred in the late 1960s, when the generation that had experienced the strains of mainstreaming took steps to promote a different model of deaf education that mitigated the demands of oralism. In 1968, a group of 5 deaf educators working together within the framework of the Association for the Deaf aimed to demonstrate that sign language could be more than, quote unquote, language of gestures, as it was commonly dubbed by the broader public. Next slide, please. Conscripting Hebrew for their purposes, these deaf educators introduced finger spelling into Israeli Sign Language in order to articulate, by way of hand shapes, Hebrew words while signing. Here on the screen, you see a poster with drawings of hand shapes, each corresponding to a letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The resulting increase in the expressive capacity of sign language, the deaf educators surmised, would reduce aversion among hearing educators and thus create the conditions for the use of manual language in mainstream education in hearing schools. The deaf innovators knew that finger spelling was unlikely to receive official approval from education policymakers. Anticipating resistance against any use of manual language to educate deaf youth in mainstreaming schools, these deaf educators downplayed the perceived threat of finger spelling by presenting it as a mere accessory to oral education that would facilitate the students' acquisition of Hebrew. The drive to introduce finger spelling in mainstream education meant that the language of gestures could win recognition in the classroom, only absorbing features of the national language or serving the interests of Hebrew learning. The path to acceptance of sign language in the national education system had just begun, with many hurdles yet to be confronted. Tami Assouline has many ties with the story that I just related. Israeli Sign Language is the first language she was exposed to, a language that she acquired from her parents, graduates of the deaf schools of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and that she herself is taught to generations of high school deaf and hearing students. Tami's biography and art can be viewed as a reflection of the different status that sign language today holds in Israeli society. A triumph over the constrictions of Hebrew oralism and the erasure of deafness. No longer stigmatized, Israeli Sign Language is increasingly visible in public spaces and in the media, and is learned by growing numbers of hearing Israelis. In Tami's work, sign language is a motherland of beauty that inspires and enables the sinuous expressions of her deaf poetry. The title of her collection of deaf poetry, whose cover is shown on the slide, is Yam Fa, where Yam means ocean in Hebrew, and Fa, the real thing in sign language. But more specifically, Fa implies a language that is uncontaminated, pure, and emancipated from the strictures of the Hebrew language, serving as an aesthetic call to reclaim the authentic deaf self. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Tami, who for her performance. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello to all the viewers in the US and in Israel and other countries. Thank you for inviting me to perform. It's a big honor. And thank you, Ilana from Brandeis University, and of course, Marco, dear Marco. I will tell you about myself first. Visually, I have freckles and curly hair with all sorts of colors because of the Israeli sun. And I would like to introduce my show, my performance. It's called Deaf Poetry. Very simple. I will get up now. I will stand for this. Wait a second. I want to adjust my computer. Straight, soda pop, red, hard red, facing Ramat Gan, Diamond Exchange. Over there, chocolate factory. There, nursing home, old. Old curtains, suffocating. Over there, salesman, bald, brown skin. His name? Can't remember. You remember, my sister? Face, brown, never smile. Frowns. Selling soda pop. Hard red. Love it. Coins. La 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 la. He face. I think maybe Iraq. Loves coins. La 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 la. Nursing home. Gone, destroyed. Factory, chocolate, moved. Diamonds, exchange, grew. Next poet. I'll continue on. Steps, 7 steps, 7 room, copy room, woman, Malka, work, she, husband, her, name, Rachamim, mercy. Gone, gone. Yes, yes. About a month ago. Room, copy machine. Malka, pray. Yes. Sa, letters. Oh, Oh, sweater, brown, sadness, pa, 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 handkerchief, shoes, pa, brown, pa, sadness, window, sadness, 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 pa, pa, forgot, stapler, forgot, stapler, give me one, pa. Line 88. Line 88. Brings sand, ocean, sand. Jaffa, the day before yesterday. Fa, already. Driver, Shimon. P, P. Driver, bus. Two people driving. Bus, 88. Line. Distance, height, below, under, ocean, 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 bus, water, splash, sand, ocean sand. The next poem is, okay. Pigeon. My dad, pigeon. My dad, pigeon. My dad, pigeon. Vertebra. Joints. Vertebra. Joints. My dad. Joints. Pa. Pigeon. Light. Shadow. Your face, light. You, beautiful, no. Light. Tooth, growing. Way to go, honey. Shadow. breasts falling, honey. You beautiful, no. Tooth new, growing. Way to go, honey. Tooth falling. Breasts dries out. Never mind, honey. Light. They took woman ambulance. They push woman ambulance. Pa, pa, pa. Woman face, no face, tired. Pa, pa, not good, heart. Woman face, not good, treatment. Pa, pa, yellow, ambulance, yellow. B, whoa, bee hive. B. Woman, face, heavy. Pa, heart, not good. Treatment, machine, engine, treatment. Pa, B, pa, B, honey. Pa, honey. Pa, woman. Pa, B. To find your handwriting, old, wrinkled, but kept. To find words, pa, both of us flirt. You are a poet. Poet twigs. Fire. Afraid? Come. Together. Bicycle. Gray. La 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 la. Traffic circle. Same place. Remember? You are a jet plane. You sing moon. You plain paper. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will grab a seat. And thank you. Thank you, everyone, for all the viewers. And now I want to show a video of mine. You will see a video of me signing a poem. It's called Eyal is in Love. So enjoy. Eyal in love. This guy, ZZZ, Brazil. Eyal in love. This guy, Eyal thinking other guy, why? Face, voice, smile, sing, why? Eyal, clear, no. Guy, ZZZ. Trash, cat. Tricks. Eye, lamps. Life, precious. Eyal in love, ZZZ. I look, why? Clear, no. Life, clear, no. Trash, cat. Eyal. Broken heart, fa? No. Eyal, to think, what else? Eyal, to think, what else? Guy, this matter, no. World, korononi. Rooster saw wing. Broken wing. Eyal, strength. Sun, love, new. Eyal in love. Guy, ZZZ. Where? Brazil. Crazy, restless. Clear, ZZZ. Day, sun, swallow. Love took, sky gray. Eyal, clear, there is. Love hard, fa, less. Day, swallow. How are you, mockingbird? How are you? What's up, mockingbird? Eyal in love. More, less, more. Eyal in love. In love himself. Trip, mountains? No.
Thank you, Tami. This was wonderful. We have seen only a small yet meaningful sample of your art. I know that you have experimented with different artistic genres, from cinema to Hebrew poetry. Can you tell us a little bit more about your artistic biography? What has your artistic evolution been like?
Okay. And so I grew up really influenced by my hearing grandmother. This grandmother used to always say that it's important to read, to express your language. And I was really connected to it. And I was really expressive in a very young age. Since I was 6 years old, I was really visual and really expressive. And then I started dancing. And I started to express myself physically and looking at deaf and hearing people, dancers who are deaf and hearing. And I told myself, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to be a dancer like these ones. I want to stand on stage and I want to move. I want to move like they move, like these dancers move. And later on, this group of dancers stopped working together. And of course, they had another group in the Deaf Association. So I joined, and it was so expressive. Facial expressions were really strong, and body movements. And I saw all these different options. So I wanted to do it. And of course, this group was also closed. So I told myself, I won't wait. I will start writing. And then I created my first book. And I did this book also with the drawings that I had. And later on I did my second book and more, and I felt like I want to do more. I had the thirst to create, and I wanted to also make a movie, but I didn't have the tools for it. I've never learned how to write a script. So I went to Gesher for Israeli cinema. And I saw that writing a script is not like a poem or a story. It's really different. It was really interesting. And then I created my movie, a movie about dance that in the back of my mind, I felt like it's me. It's like a reflection of me. And it gave me, and it made me more exposed through different festivals or the short films. And I continue on to my third book called Yam Fa. And over there, I felt like that's my natural language. I will explain about it more later on. And I felt like all the time I have more and more ideas. So I continue on with my creation. Yeah.
Thank you. Compared to Hebrew poetry, it seems as though writing deaf poetry involves a completely different process. Would you share with us what this process is about in more detail?
Yes. So I have two of my first books are completely, this is my identity. It doesn't matter if I write in Hebrew, like hearing people, it's still in my eyes and expressing my deaf experience the strongest. It's very visual. And later on, I felt like something is missing. I was looking for something. I felt like at night, when I used to sleep at night, I felt like there is something in my mind all the time. I used to see the poems around me. I haven't even wrote it yet. It just came to me in my dreams. I used to get up in bed and start running and feeling it. This is it. This is it. This is me. It was disconnected from the Hebrew syntax. I wasn't obeying the rules of gender in Hebrew and saying you or they or her or she. It was me. It was my language from home, from my deaf parents. That was it. And I started expressing myself, and I had so many ideas. And then I started to make videos of myself signing it. And I felt like the video was like a mirror. The camera was a mirror. And I felt like I had the drive to be even better than what I see in the camera, what I see in the mirror. And then I created my third book called Yamfa. Through Mayan with a guy, it's the publicity that opened the door for me and published my book. And then I had my first deaf poetry book. Doesn't matter which book was the first, but I felt like the window was wide open now, and I have fresh air. And now I'm working on my first book.
Thank you, Tami. I have many more questions on your deaf poetry, but I would like to move on to the themes of your deaf poetry and performance. Can you tell us a little bit about your creative work? What are the main themes that run through your art and performance?
I don't really follow some subjects and themes. I have life affecting me, but I have a lot of connection with stuff that are descriptive, that are visual, that I can feel them going from inside of me and connect to the outside world and vice versa. I feel a connection to animals, and it repeats the theme of animals, and also I feel like I have an animal inside of me that is wild. And also when I see animals outside, I feel like I connect with it. It's hard to explain, but there's a lot of connection to animals and movements and transitions, and also descriptive. I'm describing situation, like a place with two people sitting on a couch, talking with each other. So it's a poem about how I feel the movement between these two people, what they're talking about. Do they have a love connection? Do they have a lost connection? And it goes to me, and then I create a poem about it.
Thank you. Is there anything specifically Israeli about your own creative work?
Yeah, I live here in Israel. I'm right here. And I have a lot of influences. I grew up in Ramat Gan. I see the changes in buildings, the changes throughout time, the factory, the smell, the people, Israeli people that lack tolerance, the facial expressions. The Israeli people have a lot of gestures. They use a lot of body language like this. Excuse me for doing the imitation of, but this is the Israeli culture. And Jaffa, the people, the atmosphere. You should come to Israel and visit and see it for yourselves.
Thanks. At the end of my presentation, I briefly mentioned the title of your collection of deaf poetry, Yamfa. Can you briefly explain the title? Why Yamfa?
I was really at the ocean and I felt joy from the ocean. It doesn't have to be the ocean. The ocean for me is something that is very big that I can't control. I can control the movement, the changes. It's real. That's real, like fun. That's real, like you explained yourself in your lecture.
The sign language interpreters you work with fulfill an important role in your performances. Their interpretation not only conveys the literal meaning of your art and poetry, but also their aesthetic qualities. Would you tell us a little more about how you collaborate with your sign language interpreters?
Okay. So the regular profession, the regular interpreter is like a tube that just transforms the information from side to side. That's a skilled interpreter. But in my case, that's not a tube. The interpreter is a person that suits me, that knows how to, that needs to love poetry and love the art, and also to express it in their voices, to combine it with my dance and with my expression. When hearing people come, or hard of hearing people come, I want them to all be together in the same dance. So the interpreter should be artistic also. And this is why I have only 2 interpreters that I work with. And of course, we need to see which one has time for what, and it needs to be in good quality. And maybe I will have another one soon, but they're all really busy and I need to respect their time.
Thank you, Tami. You are fully embedded in the Israeli deaf culture and community. You grew up in a deaf household. Your husband is a deaf person. Would you like to share with us what it is like to grow up as a deaf person in Israel? Do you think your experience is more unique or more representative?
Okay, so yes, I grew up in a house that everyone is deaf, and I have a really strong memory, especially on Shabbat, when we used to come to the Deaf Association Club on Shabbat, all of the families, parents, my friends' parents together, and also my friends, and also hearing children with the deaf parents used to come. They called Koda, children of deaf adults. And we were all together playing outside, and we used to watch what the grown-ups are signing, talking about And I really observed my identity at home, the deaf identity. So we grew up all together. It doesn't matter if it's older people or younger people, we are all together, the deaf community. And I believe that each one is special and have their own uniqueness. I have my poetry. That's me, that's Tami, that's mine. And I don't know what's for someone else. Each person has their own treasure. Each person is special. And today, when I look back, I see how the Deaf Association thrived. There is more awareness, there is more acceptance, there are more deaf teachers that get tools about sign language linguistics, and there's a lot of activities, and soon there's a festival of 3 days, a festival called Achla, in the Deaf Association, so way to go for them. And also in Allagat Center, they do another festival. Soon, there will be the Deaf Day, International Deaf Day, in December 8th. And they do activities, and I'm going to perform in both festivals. So you can follow up, but you live in the US. Maybe you can come to Israel, maybe buy a ticket and come and see. And in addition, we also have a member in the Parliament of Israel who's deaf. Now she recently finished her job because we had elections, but we also had a deaf member in the Knesset of Israel. So there is a lot of developments in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tami. At this point, we will open the floor for questions. We'll begin with questions from the classroom. And yes, please feel free to ask.
You speak very loud.
What poetry besides poetry from Israel inspires you?
Can you repeat, Marco? I'm not sure if I heard it.
Okay. What poetry besides poetry from Israel inspires you?
Okay. So I read a lot of poetry. It's really important for me to observe inspiration. Doesn't matter if it's from a hearing person or a deaf person, and I wish to have more and more deaf poetry. But I do have connection to poetry about pain, nature, poetry that is more visual. There's not a lot of it, but this kind of poetry, I feel like I can get a lot of inspiration. It's important to read more and not just be focused on myself, because this way it's like the weather. You need to feel the atmosphere around you. It's the same thing when you read other poets.
More questions? We'll prepare amazing questions. Yes, Ashley, pick up your mind.
I was wondering, in the Inner Flame film, what inspired the custodian character?
Okay, so the girl who did my role, actually, she represented me, but I couldn't perform myself. So we chose really an excellent girl to combine with a love story. She's a hearing person. She doesn't know anything about the deaf world, but she really got me. She read the script and she was really connected to it. It was crazy. The connection was crazy. It really suited her. I didn't need to explain to her, you need to have eye connection, because deaf people use eye connection. she just got it, and we had a good connection between us. So I was really fortunate.
הם שאלו גם לגבי המנקה, מה הדמות של המנקה? Sorry, I just translated.
Okay. Wow, nice. So this character was like the third part. She had really an important role. She was like, this person had a job that is not see-through. She gave me strength. The way she looked at us, it was like in the back of your mind. It's like the back of your mind, something that is see-through, but it's in you. And I really wanted to respect also the deaf community and Russian people that immigrate to Israel. A lot of them were musicians and choreographers, and they came to Israel, and sometimes they had to work as cleaning lady, cleaning person, but they were a part of my world too.
We have one more question.
Speaking of the cleaning lady character, was she anyhow inspired by your grandmother, since she pushed you further to proceed in your career?
It was like a metaphor, actually. It doesn't really have to be the cleaning lady per se, or my mom. It's true that I had you use your imagination and see how it is in your eyes, in the viewer's eyes. So if you saw it as my mom, that's a really nice way to interpret this. Yeah.
We have one more question.
I was wondering, in the film, the main character, the girl, why did she start off not wearing her hearing aid?
The hearing aid is not the biggest, most important thing in the world. First of all, I'm a person with a hearing aid or without the hearing aid. It doesn't really matter. So it starts without the hearing aid, and then she's like, oops, I forgot about it. It's like me in real life, because dance is like my home. I feel at home. I don't think about hearing aids when I dance.
Any more questions from the classroom? So
hi, Tami. My name's Devin, and thank you so much for a wonderful performance. I have 4 questions from our viewers. The first is, have there been deaf mentors in your life, and who?
Oh, wow. I had few people, and I already know what to answer. I was really affected by dance, by dancers. So I had some people over there, like Amnon Damti and Yosef Moyal. They were my teachers. I started to dance with them, and also Sarah Lansman, and more deaf dancers, not only one. I can't really specify everyone, but they gave me a lot of tools.
Thank you. Second question asks, how did you decide what scenes you were using, such as in the grocery store or in the car?
Yeah, so you know that maybe you know that sometimes you have like an inspiration that's coming to you right now, and some people write it down or they record themselves, I don't know. So I do a video, and I believe that when I feel myself, it should be natural, like the situation, the real situation that's going on right now in real time. Doesn't have to be beautiful, the background doesn't matter. So I don't have to upload it. I can also delete it, but I can't go back. I need to capture this moment of inspiration. So I was thinking a lot, maybe soon, to create a video book online that has lots and lots and lots of videos of mine throughout the years. And my intention is to release it with accessibility worldwide with captions to different languages, translations. And this is how I want it to be. That's the next book, and I won't give up on it. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question is, do you have any connection with dance music, poetry, therapists, and working with deaf kids or adults?
You mean like therapy in school or for children in school or in deaf clubs? There is mainly therapy through art, but I don't really have anything to do with it, but I do really believe in therapy for children. It doesn't have to be just sitting around, sitting and talking. You can use art and dance and performances, and it's really, really recommended. It's really an important tool to use. So to express yourself, instead of the word therapy, I would use a different word, maybe a challenge. Think about it. I think it's good.
All right, thank you. And this is the last question. At one time, total communication was emphasized in the education of the deaf. Did your family ever try to get you to learn how to speak in addition to signing?
In the past, the perception was really different. We were in a different place. The technology was in a different place. The perception was that oralism is really important, to speak perfectly with your voice, to do your R and your sh perfectly, without integrated sign language at all when you communicate. Sign language was perceived as disturbing your speech. And we couldn't argue, we were children. Later on, I realized that I have my identity, and now I'm in a different place, and I sign, and I let people use whatever they like. Sign if you want. So times are changing, and it's natural. And now I encourage sign language and speech. If a deaf person wants to speak, go ahead. If you want to integrate sign language, go ahead. If you don't want to use speech, go ahead. It's like having a suit. Languages are like different suits on your hanger, and you can choose which one you want to wear today. Don't use prohibited, this one is prohibited, or this one. Just whatever you have in your closet.
Thank you so much, Tami.
So I just want to thank the students again for participating, for asking questions. And I want to thank Tami for your amazing work, your amazing poetry, your amazing dance, your incredible movie. And I want to thank Marco for your talk today, for your project in general about disability in Israel. And thank you again, the Schusterman Center, and thank you so much, our audience online. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you in other events. Thank you.